I promise you, I did not plan this out. We have nothing news on the new Nothing Phone 4B. So it's official, it's called the 4B. What do we know right now about the Nothing Phone 4B? Well, there might potentially be a black and or a silver at a later date, but right now they're showing off the blue color. And we do know it's going to have 2 sensors on the back. We sort of still don't know, at least confirmed, what the specs are going to be. However, we're going to get to in a minute. I think we can figure out what the specs are going to be. The sketch, that was basically it, right? We'll get to the specs in a minute, but it will resemble sort of like the Nothing Phone 4A Pro. So it's going to be a unibody. We don't know if it's going to be all plastic unibody or an all metal unibody. I'm guessing it's going to be plastic. Remember, this is budget. We're going to have to kind of minimize our expectations. You got to remember, this is a budget phone. We don't have confirmation on price. I am guessing it's going to be right around $350, probably $349, which is a little more expensive than what CMF would offer, but we mentioned this in the past. Nothing can get away with raising the prices a little bit. It's kind of like Toyota and Lexus. Same car, Lexus just costs more. When it comes to similar looks and feel from the Nothing Phone 4A Pro, it's going to be just that. So it's going to have a kind of a, on the top portion, the top third of the phone, it's going to have a see-through back. It's going to have a glass portion up top. I think it's going to be all plastic, but unibody is cool. This is the only budget phone that I would ever use or ever even consider using. So let's talk specs, right? What we do know is it does have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 6 Gen 4 CPU. It's kind of similar along the lines of its bigger brother, the Nothing Phone 4A Pro, which has the 7S Gen 4. And again, it's not going to blow you away on the spec sheet, but if I just blindfolded you and handed you this phone, more than likely, you would probably like it. It's going to be quick. It's going to be snappy. The Nothing developers have done a fantastic job optimizing that operating system that it has. But with the memory being sky high, with the memory prices being so high at the moment, I can almost guarantee you what memory variants it's going to have, and it's probably just going to have one. Let's face it. I was hoping we would see a 256, but I doubt it. I strongly doubt it. They may offer in a region or two a 256 gig model variant, but it's going to be 8 gigs of RAM. It's going to be 128 gigs of storage. Now, I know it sucks using 128 gigs, but they do help us out a little bit because this is not confirmed, but I think they're going to do this. In fact, I would bet on them doing this. So the previous CMF phones, both of them had micro SD card support. And I think you're going to see the same thing here with this Nothing Phone 4B. So 8 gigs of RAM, yeah, it's kind of low, but out of that 128 gigs of storage, you can do RAM boost. So you can add RAM expansion to your RAM. So it'll probably be along the lines of 4 gigs of RAM, possibly 8 gigs of RAM you can expand. So that means it will have 12, potentially to 16 gigs of RAM. And it will potentially hold a 2 terabyte micro SD card in there. At least the last CMF Phone 2 Pro did. So as long as you can get your hands on a SD card, I think you'll be fine, right? Boost to the RAM and save everything to your SD card. So look, it'll be a good phone. It's going to be launched on July 7th. Nothing already scheduled a live stream at 5 a.m. Central Standard Time in the US. But speaking of the US, it is not coming to the US. So that is the bad news when it comes to this Nothing Phone 4B. It's not coming to the US at all. North America? Beta program? Nope. If you want to get one, if you gotta have this phone, if you're a Nothing fanboy, you can still get one. They announce it July 7th, which is what, a couple weeks away. And then typically after they announce it, 14 days, 2 weeks after announcement and or launch date is when they start shipping them, is when you can physically start buying them. So I would anticipate seeing this device for sale on eBay, maybe a couple of other retailers that do have this device for sale. but eBay will definitely have it. Now, one thing that sucks about buying it is, I'm talking about on eBay, is the seller's probably going to add an extra $80 to $100 on top of that $350 so they can make a profit. So essentially it's $350 for everybody else, or at least if you're in Europe. But for us here in the US, if you got to have this phone, it's probably going to be $429, $449, something like that. So with that extra $100, it opens up a whole nother door, a whole nother room of potential devices you can buy for right around that $450 price point, which honestly, I would rather go for than this Nothing Phone 4B. So what other devices am I talking about, right? I thought, hold up, I thought you didn't like budget and or mid-range phones. I kind of don't, but if I did have to spend $450, if you gave me a cap no more than $450, I got a perfect phone for you. And that's going to be the Motorola Edge 70 Pro Plus. That thing is spec'd out. In fact, it blows the Nothing Phone 4B away, and that's priced right at $449. Jump on eBay, you can go find them. They're really nice phones. They're spec'd out. It uses a MediaTek CPU, but that's the thing you got to think about. If you're in the US, it's not going to be on the beta program. They're not going to sell it over here, and eBay sellers are going to add extra money on top so they can make a profit. Well, that just bumps you up in a whole nother category that opens up a whole nother door of devices for you to purchase. Now, that's basically the only other mid-range phone that I'm aware of, minus the Nothing Phone 4A and 4A Pro, right? Because if you got to spend an extra $100 making that Nothing Phone 4B turns it into $450, well, you might as well just buy the Nothing Phone 4A Pro. See what I'm saying? So it really doesn't make sense for us here in the US to buy it, but I want you to subscribe to this channel if you're potentially thinking about getting this phone. What I'm going to do is on July 7th, when this is announced, all these specs will be confirmed, and we're going to break it down extensively. So we're going to look at the confirmed specs. We're going to look at your buying options and how much it costs. And one thing I love to do is we're going to look and see what carriers, if you just got to have this phone, come to eSIM Studios. We're going to break down what carriers should work and should not work. So we'll go through all the bands that it has enabled for worldwide use and see what carriers here in the US could potentially work with it. Now, just some advice. I've used CMF phones. I've tested CMF phones. I'm a Nothing Phone user, and they do not play nicely outside of T-Mobile. You should be aware of it by now, but T-Mobile is essentially the only carrier that works with these Nothing phones. It sucks, but it's just the way it is. Stay tuned to the channel. I'm going to cover this extensively. Now, going through the remaining specs of the device, let's be honest, it's probably going to have a 1080p plus display. It's going to be AMOLED, but don't expect 2K, 1.5K, 4K. UFS storage, probably going to be UFS storage 3.0, possibly 2.1. Remember, this is budget. Now, sensors on the back. It's not going to have telephoto, so it has two sensors. It's going to have a main shooter and an ultra wide, but no telephoto, no, obviously no periscope, which is okay. Look, it should take okay pictures. I'm sure it's not going to blow your socks off, but it'll be okay for a budget phone. People that really don't care about camera quality, they'll snap some pictures. Don't expect 4K video on the front-facing selfie camera. Will it? Maybe, but probably going to be capped at 1080p. It does have a Glyph bar on the back, so where the cameras are on the left side in vertical array, they're going to have a Glyph bar on the right side. So they are staying true with the Glyph look and feel. It's not going to be Glyph Matrix. It's going to be similar to the Glyph bar on the Nothing Phone 4A, not the Pro that has the Matrix, the circle, but the 4A, which has that Glyph bar. It's going to be just like that. So they will give you a little Nothing LED look and feel on the side of that device, on the back of the device. So that's nice. But stay tuned to the channel. I'm going to cover this extensively. I do appreciate the time, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.